Welcome everybody, it is me, Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and once again we are back with another security happy hour. And so look, I love this because we had, me and Maril were having an awesome conversation before we even got started, so it's going to be a fun-filled episode, especially with some of the conversations I've seen Scott sharing and Alyssa Miller sharing. There's a lot of things going on that, right, are getting people's wheels turning again, because it fades every so often, but then it comes back with a vengeance. So we're going to talk about that. But for starters, as I always do, we're going to do some introductions. That way people can get to know everybody that I have here tonight. And that way you can connect with them, all right? Whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter. That's how you get around in this career field. It's, when you know people, you can find mentors and people that'll guide you the right way. And that's what this is all about. So if you're new here and you've never actually, you're just trying to break into cyber, please post your questions in the chat. I'll ask them as we get around to them. So, going for that. Maril, let's start with you. Why don't you give the viewers a rundown kind of how you got into this field, leading up to kind of what you're doing now, and if you have any plans for the future.
Well, very excited to announce that as of next Monday, I will be the newest offensive security engineer associate for Zoom Communications. So just went from being an internal pen tester to a full-blown big girl pen tester. It's very exciting. But yeah, my journey into cybersecurity is, for those of you who've heard this already, I apologize, somewhat unique. I was actually a career social media marketing manager until about 2 years ago, and I took my first role in cybersecurity as a risk analyst, which actually is more of a business function. So I got my foot in the door with like the most administrative function you can possibly have, like more GRC and risk related, but working in cybersecurity. And 3 months into that role, the pen tester position opened up, and I had graduated all of my responsibilities, and I was like, I think I could be the pen tester. And they're like, oh, really? That's cute. And they were like, well, if you want to interview for this position, you have to have a Sec Plus. And I had never done anything technical in my entire life. I still hadn't done anything really technical by this point, besides read a SOC 2. And yeah, I got my Sec Plus in like 2 weeks, and then I got interviewed to be the pen tester, and I talked my way into that. And now here I sit, year and a half later, portal site author, CIS benchmark author, red teamer for Cyber Shield. Yeah, tons of other jazzy things that I do on the side, but it's basically me in a nutshell.
So, what are you trying to do from here? All right. So you've hit like peak awesomeness, but there's always more awesomeness that you can go. So
there's more awesomeness.
That always.
I'm far from knowing it all. I don't know it all. In fact, all 5 of my interviews with Zoom illustrated to me just how much I don't know. And the gentlemen who were on those interviews can tell you all about it. But basically, I'm going to be ramping up all the different languages that I know. So I'm going to be incorporating some more coding languages. Right now, I'm a big scripter. You know, I lightly script in like JSON, YAML, PowerShell. You know, you got Bash and you got your Python. But yeah, they're going to have me drink from the fire hose on learning coding languages, going to be doing binary analysis. And then eventually I hope to graduate myself into more of a purple team role. So running true purple team engagements with their dedicated red team. And I want to get into reverse malware engineering, and I want to write really, really, really badass malware. I want to set it up on a honeynet so that if you touch my honeynet, you think twice next time.
That sounds like fun. So me and you need to work together on some projects. Well, we've already discussed one project that I need to pull you in on previously. So hopefully you'll be joining that. I know You've been busy recently, so between PTO and everything else you've had going on. But I'd love to make that announcement here in the near future.
Wrap it up at masters and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything in spare time.
I got another friend that's going to come in and do digital forensics, but she's another one that's been really busy going through military training right now. So unfortunately, I can't do that. But she's going to do the same thing. She's going to do reverse engineering and forensics and things of that nature. So awesome to see. One of the questions before I get to you, Scott, there's the one is, I got a kid in high school who works with me. He wants to know if any of these jobs can be done kind of like on the side while you're still in school, because we all know school's Monday through Friday. So, are there companies out there that allow work like this on the side?
Yeah. I used to contract with a number of companies. So I was an internal pen tester, so it wasn't a direct conflict because being internal to my company and then contracting on the side, it was okay. So if you really, on Zoom, my Zoom team, we have a guy who's still in high school on our team working as a red teamer, and he's literally doing that on a part-time basis around being in high school, which is obviously his main function. And he's got the skills to back it up. He's got the know-how. So as long as you have the passion and you have the drive and you have the skills, you can absolutely do this on the side. There are people who don't want pen tests done during business hours. They don't want to impact business operations. They only want them done during certain hours. They want to emulate certain APTs, which would only attack after hours. They would track your time zone. So there's absolutely work to be done in this field, definitely on the side. There's tons of GRC and privacy work you can do in the after hours. People need very large documents parsed by the next business day. So, I mean, there's tons of work in this field on a contract and part-time basis. Absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, that's awesome for him because he works with me on the side. He'll be putting out videos on this channel here shortly, as soon as he gets around to it. So, hello everybody that is in YouTube chat today. We've got David, Siberia, Techno Cannon, Cyber Panda, of course, has joined us.
Like Siberia?
Cyberia, Siberia. So, Siberia.
Oh, there was someone from Siberia. I was going to be like, Tigavrish Paraskia, but no, it's not.
But so we got a lot of people here. I mean, we've got a lot. Devil Ray, of course, who just put out his most recent video, our first video for CyberWarriorStudios, has joined us in chat also. So, Devil Ray, feel free to keep the chat going, and everybody else. It's awesome having everybody here. Twitch, I have Rain, who once again, he's the one in high school, but doing a lot of work for me on the side, and trying to get his feet wet. So that's why.
Get it early. Don't start in your 30s like I did.
Oh,
Right?
he's.
Do you imagine if I started in high school?
Oh man, you and me both. So Scott, let's move on to you real quick before we get into any more. Same questions, man. How'd you get into this? Like,
Yeah, do Scott.
Where'd you start, and what are you doing now?
Oh man, a lot of poor life choices, I guess, is kind of how I started. No, so right out of high school, like way back in the day, was working part-time retail at Cabela's of all places here locally. IT guy, was looking for some help. That's kind of how I got my start. Went to college, did the Cisco Academy, that sort of thing. Was a consultant off and on. Most of my career, my background has been like networking, collab stuff, and ended up doing a master's in cybersecurity. Went to a local company that was rebuilding or actually building their network and security stuff from the ground up. Worked with a great dude, great CISO. He came from a large sporting goods retailer. And, he's not only been a mentor, he's been a good friend to me too over the years. And from there, went to my current company where I'm at, doing more on the GRC side, but still doing a lot of architecture review and that sort of thing. And, just bouncing around a lot. Consulting has been really good for me just to be able to see a lot of different stuff over time. That's how you really get exposed to all the different crap that everybody's doing and all the different messes that you could walk into.
Yeah, definitely. So I perused your LinkedIn because I did see a lot of network engineering and things like that. I had a buddy in the Army that went into network engineering as a warrant, eventually getting there as a warrant officer. I considered it before I decided to go cybersecurity. I was a sysadmin, learning the networking side. And one of the things I tell people is having that overall knowledge of networking and operating systems helps immensely, regardless of whether you're blue team or red team, because it gives you that baseline of what to look for. If you're a red teamer, you know how traffic flows, so you know how to hide yourself in HTTPS, or in an SSH tunnel or whatever the case may be. If you're a blue teamer and you have that understanding, then you know ports, you know port security. You can sit there and really analyze logs and understand where to go. So when people talk about breaking into cyber, that is one of the first things I always recommend is get that baseline knowledge out of the way. Because I don't care if it's an A+, a Net+, or a Sec+, get those baseline CompTIA certs. Even if you don't take the certification, look, I'm not going to sit here and preach you have to get a certification or you have to get a degree. I'm not going to preach it. All I'm going to say is get the knowledge that is behind those certifications. Because if you go to boot camps, then half the time they're teaching the test. Not always. There's a lot of good ones out there, but there's a lot that just teach you to pass the test. And that's not what you want. You want the knowledge that is supposed to go into those certifications.
I agree. I've met people with a Sec Plus who can't translate that into what it means to work in an actual SOC or an actual InfoSec team. And then I've met people who couldn't pass the test, like for their life. Like one of my mentees, I wrote an article about this a while back. She's failed it multiple times and she's like pissed on herself. And I was like, listen, this does not matter. This is like a small, like little teeny tiny step. Do you still have the knowledge? Can you still apply it? Can you still design a security like program from the ground up? Could you help someone improve their security immediately if you were hired? And you are a security expert. If you have that knowledge and if you can apply it, and if you know realistically what it means, if you understand data flow, if you understand the controls, if you understand your attack surface, then you're golden. Who the hell cares if you have the Sec Plus or not? Which is a rude ass test, by the way, rude ass test. And if you failed it, you still have that knowledge under your belt and you can still apply it and you can still market yourself as someone who has that capability behind them.
That's the biggest thing too. Like when I've talked to people in interviews and stuff like that over time, I've interviewed people, you can always tell the paper engineer versus the person that actually knows what they're doing in like the first 10 minutes, right? Like it's
paper engineer.
It's crazy. Like how bad these people, like they do the brain dumps and everything else like that. And I'm like, God, come on now, don't waste my time.
Well,
I want
and you people who are really good at passing tests too. Like they can pass a test like
exactly.
Nothing. And they're racking up certs. And you're like, what have you done with it? And they're like, nothing.
And that's a big thing. Look, I'll be honest. I have, reverse engineering malware. I just got that last year.
You have like how many?
What on my wall? There's 8 on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
My Cisco one's expired, so they're not up there. But I got reverse engineering malware, and I learned the material. And yes, I do say I'm GREM certified, but when people ask me about it, I will never claim to be an expert. I will say, I got this, I can relearn the material, and I can know how to do the job, but I don't reverse engineer malware for a living. I'm on all the SANS forum, like, email lists and newsletters, and people asking questions, and I'm like, I can't answer it because I haven't touched reverse engineering anything except for a few applications on Hack the Box since I graduated, or got the certification. Like, I don't claim to be an expert in that. Then again, I'm one of the few people that will never claim to be an expert in anything because it's just constantly so much to learn. I despise in this field, unless you want to isolate it and really focus on one area and one like web app or malware or exploit development or blue team, like being an analyst or whatever. If you want to do that, then cool. You can call yourself an expert. As much as it changes, it's easier to keep up. But if you sit there and you tell me you are a cybersecurity or a security expert, I'm going to laugh in your face. And people can sit there and hate on me all they want for saying that. But at the end of the day, that term bothers the living hell out of me because an expert means you basically put yourself above everybody else at that point. I'm an expert. I don't have anything else that I need to learn. No. You're a professional.
Yeah.
And you may... but you're limiting yourself because now you're telling yourself you don't need to grow anymore. And
right.
and I hate that. I hate when people limit themselves to growth because there's always more to learn. No matter your field, no matter your position, there's always more to learn. No
matter what, you will never know it all. If you blink for 2 seconds, you've fallen behind. You're like, God, I just had that a minute ago, and now there's something new. Shit. Like, I tell people I'm a perpetual newbie, and people are like, you're not a newbie. And I'm like, no, I'm still a newbie because I might be really good over here, but there's still all this world of over here that I have yet to touch. And I would be a newbie in those pools, and that's fine. I'm good admitting that. But that's why I love this field. No one will ever kick back and say, oh, I know everything there is to know now, guys.
But you have people that are like that. You do. You have people that are like that. They get complacent. They get comfortable. And you see that a lot with the ones that have egos and they feel like they're elite and better than everybody. And I honestly feel like they feel that way because if they don't put themselves at that level, then they'll realize how small they really are and how much they don't know anymore. And that's my problem. You have to. It's okay to have an ego in this field because that's how you sell yourself. That's how you sell your capabilities. But you've got to regulate it. You still got to be humble and realize that there's so much more to learn. And that's one of the big things. So I get frustrated when I see people that spout off like, "Oh, I'm an expert in this." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Jag-off. That's what you are. That at the end of the day, that's what you are. You're a jag-off, and you need to shut up. Like that stuff drives me insane.
Yeah.
It's why I like the word professional. When you're a professional in its definition has continuous learning built in. Like you continuously learn in this field. You are like a lawyer is continuously learning to practice. So like a professional has that continual learning built in. So that's why I say I'm a professional. And I am. I have a professionally qualified opinion, but do I know it all? Oh, hell to the no. I have like 3 cloud certifications. I've written a cloud benchmark. Do I walk around saying I'm a cloud expert? No. Mm-mm.
Even more me and you are going to have to talk about, Maril. I got a lot of stuff I'm working on, and I'm definitely going to need your help on the side.
I'm actually the only cloud qualified person in my old company. Like, Maril's our cloud expert. I'm like, stop it. Don't you put that on me. That's not my job. I didn't architect this environment. No.
So,
Mm-mm.
So while I got you both here, all right, and this is a perfect opportunity to talk about this because you are in a position where people come to you, Maril, where people ask you like, "Hey, go to Maril. She knows this, right?" And it's funny because I see a lot of things today where they talk about how, and it's not just today. Like I said earlier in the show, it kind of pitters off, and then you see a lot of tweets about it, and then it pitters off. And that's the voice of women in like a board setting or in a setting where, you're trying to get a point across, nobody listens, and then all of a sudden some male says something, and all of a sudden they listen to them.
Mansplaining!
Right? So, and it's the exact same point. And I believe it was Scott, I believe it was you that talked about that earlier and on LinkedIn.
Did you?
And my point
was, buddy.
Yeah.
I love you. Thank you.
My point is,
thank you for that.
When I was in the Air Force, our server administrator was a female, and she was the first one I'd go to every time. If a question came up, "Hey, I got an issue. I don't know how to do this," or "I don't know, like, have you seen this problem before?" What I loved about her at the same time was she didn't give you an answer. She made you earn it. Did you look it up? Did you do your research? Are you improving your knowledge? Because if I give you an answer, you're not going to learn. But I've done that especially since I met her. I'll admit I had a lot of issues growing up, whether it be elementary, middle, high school. I had a lot of issues growing up, at least from what my dad tells me. I didn't think I did, but my dad says I did, with female authority. But I got a lot better as I became an adult because I realized, and this is part of why I do this channel, is to bring in everybody, every single buddy, because everybody has their capabilities, their knowledge, and to see that and to still see to this day as adults, men sitting there and not listening when there's someone there that's saying the exact same goddamn thing aggravates me.
I have like 2 tangents on this subject that are very close to my heart and get me very heated very quickly. So first off, I guess I have an ambiguous name because most of the men in IT ops are the developers who work off-site when they were in HQ office that I'm like, "Oh, you're Kevin or you're so-and-so. I'm Maril. We've exchanged a number of emails about this project." They're like,
"Nope."
I'm And I'm like, you okay? They're like, we thought you were a guy. Which is great, because that tells me that my work ethic and my email communication is on their level. That is something that they associate at their peer, what they would expect someone to respond with. They don't just like, oh, she's a female, I can tell by the way she communicates. I like that. That's not necessarily a big deal. However, what is a big deal is when we're all meeting to, as a courtesy for me to tell you, I'm spinning up a new tool. It's a team server I'm hosting in AWS. It's going to function like this. It's not going to impact prod, blah, 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 blah. And they want to sit back and be like, to my boss, Bert, does your team, looking at me, have the skills to admin something like this? And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like, say nothing, do nothing, don't move. And they're talking to me through my boss, because he's a man and he's the CISO. And I'm like, listen, buddy, not only have I already done it, not only is it already working, not only am I more credentialed in the cloud than you, but this was the courtesy meeting and you're here to ask me questions. You're not here to debate really the merit on how I want to run my red team tool. So, and did he even care to know that, like, I'm like, how many AWS credentials do you have, Dale? If you pull up the AWS benchmark, my name is on it. I wrote the book. Oh my God, it's so frustrating.
I get frustrated by it though, because I look at it and I see a lot, and this is one of the things that I've preached every episode when topics like this come up, is we all come from different backgrounds, different learning styles, different capabilities. And when you try to negate somebody and ignore their experiences and, you know, their capabilities, you are completely disregarding that knowledge that you're just forgetting about. Because I'll be honest, I know people that blow me out of the water. I'll be the first one to tell you, Maril, there's a lot of shit you're talking about where I'm like, I don't got a fucking clue. Like, I'm studying AWS, I'm getting better at AWS, but I ain't got a fucking clue still. Like, I'm still learning because I completely disregarded the cloud for years. Just because to me it was somebody else's computer and I prefer to maintain my own hardware. Like, that was how my mind operated. But now with where I'm at and working in consulting and dealing with other companies in the cloud, I'm trying to get spun up on that and Docker and so many other things that I just avoided for years. It wasn't that I didn't want to learn it. It was that it wasn't something that I felt was going to be something I needed to concern myself with. And
see,
now I do.
It really behooves us, if you guys are going to take an interest in something, or if IT ops takes an interest in something, or you know that we're headed a certain direction, to become more of an expert in it than the people who are adminning it, because then we can hold our own weight in meetings. And when we offer value added feedback, I'm like, you can't negate me anymore. I'm sitting here having an opinion that my CRO, who doesn't care, is going to pay just as much attention to me as he does to you. Who cares whether or not I'm in your old boys club? So actually, same team, run by the same gentleman. I was copied on an email I shouldn't have been copied on. We're like 18 chains down. They refer to me as the boppy millennial chick working in security. Did you guys hear what the boppy millennial chick in security said about that? And I was like, woo, that's my new social handle. Thank you for that.
So
this is really what we stand up against. This is the world we live in as females working in tech.
But that's not, it's just not just females though. Don't get me wrong.
It's millennials. It's the fact that I'm young and I'm new and I'm a girl and I'm coming in. I'm telling you, your baby's ugly. Your firewall is ugly. Your database is ugly. And I'm like, listen.
It's more than just females. And that's the sad part. I've seen it. And I know.
Have you? Where
it's also people of color or minorities.
Oh, yes.
It's across the board. And look,
anyone who doesn't match us, who's telling us we don't know how to do our jobs,
I'll be the first one that reaches out to Ty Wilson, Davin Jackson, all these people. Maril, I'm getting a hold of. I had TechSec Chicks founder on here, Kalila on here last week. Like, all these people just blow my mind in their capabilities. And I think a lot of the reason that you see, you know, people of color and women going into entrepreneurship and doing other roles is because they're like, you know what, screw it. You're not going to give me the time of day. I'm going to make my name. I'm going to make my stance, and this is what I'm going to do. And look, I'll be the first one to stand up, and anybody who has seen me on Twitter knows I will blow up on Davin anytime he posts something. I'm like, here you go, dude. I see Ty post something for a course. Go ahead, man. Because they've earned it. They're doing something to better cybersecurity, and that is all that has ever mattered to me. And I really, really strongly dislike when people negate those that are trying to improve cybersecurity. You will see me avoid so many conversations unless it is an improvement to cybersecurity.
It's even worse when people like Alyssa and Chloe and Tanya are out there doing things like cultivating niches, like offering value added information and content. And people are like, oh, well, they're just doing something we didn't care to do, or they're doing something that like we don't need to understand. I'm like, you all need to understand this. Understanding this will make you better at your job. I don't completely ignore the blue side because some red teamers just want to see the world burn and leave the mess there, and like that's your job to clean it up. I'm like, no, as a red teamer, it's my job to offer value added remediation. And if I'm not making my job harder, i.e. hardening your environment the next time I try to get in there, then what the hell am I doing here? I'm like, you're just jealous because they have expertise in an area that is a weakness of yours. And if you could just get over that and you literally absorbed their content and got better at it, you'd be up on their level. But because they're a minority of some sort, you're just saying, oh, what they know, I don't need to know. You're just negating the value of the content they have to offer. And that lights me on fire.
Yeah, definitely. And it's rough because Alyssa has been doing some amazing things. She's been on my show like twice, 2 or 3 times now, something like that. I've had Kim Crawley on my show several times. I had Shannon Morse, who was one of the first females ever I started following in YouTube because of ThreatWire, and ThreatWire was amazing. I've been supporting her forever, and I had her on my show. She was on like my 2nd episode with Davin Jackson, and it is because of these things that I want others to see that the intelligence is there regardless of what you look like. So many people want to negate others because of what they look like and or what they believe in, and it's like, look, man, it doesn't matter. I don't care your religion, I don't care your sex, your gender, your color. I care what's in your head, because of the fact that I know you have something to bring to the table. Everybody does. And in this community, we have seen people come out of the woodwork and destroy systems. Absolutely destroy systems. And again, you said it, where you see red teamers that don't want to know blue team, or blue teamers that don't want to know red team. How can you do either without knowing the other? And that's been my opinion. How can you do either job without knowing the other? Because if you have to be a red teamer means you need to be silent. And in order to be silent, you have to know what the blue team is looking for. If you don't know what they're looking for, if you don't know what the anti-malware or EDR or their SIM solution is or anything else like that, then how are you going to bypass it? Because you don't know what's on there. So you may drop a malware and CrowdStrike picks it up in 2 seconds because you don't know you don't know it. Whereas a blue teamer, if you don't know what red team does, how are you going to find it?
You don't know what IOCs look for. You don't know what processes we inject to. You don't know what ports and services we like is our favorite to try first. Like, you have no idea. You're like, why is it a big deal that we're just leaving this rule out there that we don't use? And I'm like, oh, that's like a free window in the door for me. Sure, thanks for that. Like, I can just alter my payload instead of injecting on port 5000 to inject on port 3789 because you don't look over here. I know that. Like, it's very easy. Not to mention, so I gave a really scary answer in one of my interviews that I think earned me the job. Because I told everybody, if I get this job or don't get this job, it's going to be like 1% either way. I either just don't know enough because I'm just too junior, or I know just enough for them to see my potential. Luckily, it was the other way around for me. But I said, I sat in on the business continuity meetings, the TTXs, and the risk department meetings. And because I know the incident response procedures, when I assume, or not assume breach. Assume breach is great, but when I even don't assume breach my company, I can set up a shell over here and set off a bunch of little IOCs. My blue team is like, oh, we're all over that shit. Oh, we see it. And I'm like, good for you. Go get it. Go get that session. But I've already opened up like 5 more. So it's great. It's fine. And you're not looking over here. And I know you're not looking over here because I know what your response procedures are. I know what you're going to shut down. I know what you're going to isolate. I know what you care about. I know what the SIM report's on. I know how the logging is configured. And these are your blind spots. And they're like, oh, shit. And he was like, oh my God, you're evil. Because I would have never have thought to do that.
So Scott, you say things every once in a while. I want you to chime in real quick on this, and then I'm going to say my piece.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it goes back to fundamentals. Like if you don't know both sides of the coin, you can't obviously protect against it. Like, to Meryl point, like, if you know what can trigger trigger the people and get them looking over here at the big flashy, hey, come get me thing. There's like 10 other probably holes that they're crawling through. And, that's the thing. Everybody balks at the fundamentals. And that's, I try to teach my students that when I'm in some of the classes I teach. It's cool, red team sexy, blue team sexy, all these things are, super cool. But if you don't know the fundamentals, like if you don't know the basics, man, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to go into these interviews looking like a jackass, and it's not going to get you anywhere.
Security is
right?
doing fundamentals well. Yes.
Exactly.
There are so many people who don't even pay attention to the CIS first 5, let alone the first 20.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm like, if you were doing all these things well, half of my shit would not work. I would have to get so creative. I would have to write custom malware, but I don't have to do that because you leave all this low-hanging fruit out there. You got an any rule? Cool. You don't have an explicit deny? Cool. Fine. Thank you.
Oh my God, I have nightmares from any rules.
So those are huge, right? We see, and I call them lazy admins because that's what it is. It's not necessarily security, it's lazy admins, whether they're leaving a password on GitHub or in this directory that there's security through obscurity, whatever the case may be, any roles, RDP, SMB, all this stuff.
Get requests with credentials.
Yeah.
Plain text.
Exactly.
Telnet enabled.
Exactly.
Sure.
I call it lazy administration because a lot of times security isn't even in the company yet. So it's just lazy admins, right? Because when we consider it, security is still growing. We are still trying to get to that level of import where, we matter, where a CISO is more than just a seat at the table. Their opinion is actually valid. Because as of right now, we're still considered an expense. We're not considered a valid company asset, which sucks, but we're getting there. I know with all the breaches and SolarWinds and everything else going on, we're getting to that level finally. I think people are it's starting to click like, holy shit, there's a lot of shit I should have been doing, but it's still going to take time. And one of the big things, and it's funny that you mentioned distraction, Meryl, because there's 2 things that have always run through my head. The first one is when I was in my CEH class with Keytron Evans. This man is a mad genius. If you've ever dealt with him, this dude's a mad genius. And
he's wicked scary.
Oh my God. And so he sat there and he showed us a piece of malware that he developed. And what we were going over was clearing your tracks. And he was like, look, so this is what I do. And he created this piece of malware, and he was like, you can take it. I'll give it to you. He goes, all the signatures are in every antivirus program out there known to man. You're never going to be able to deploy it. So by all means. But basically when he designed it and what his thought process was behind it was, well, I'm going to hide it by putting into the script, or the executable, I'm going to hide these files. Then I'm going to hide these files. So it was hiding from processes and things like that. He goes, and then what do admins do when their computer blue screens? They reformat or go back to whatever. So what he would do is, and what he said was, he'd hide system files. And it would blue screen the computer, you'd go back and you'd clean up the tracks for him. That was like the most evil genius thing I'd ever seen, and it was awesome. And at the same token, I love when people talk about ports and port security, and I love when people talk about monitoring ports, because the one port they never monitor ever is port 0. Don't get me wrong. It is restricted. It is reserved. But it is a covert channel. Because you're not supposed to be able to pass traffic over it, it is used to pass traffic over in malicious purposes. So if you see port 0 traffic...
Session 0, right? You're not supposed to be able to... Session 0 is reserved for inactive processes. Any user who logs onto a Windows endpoint automatically uses session 1. But if you can abuse session 0, where processes execute arbitrarily...
Exactly.
You are screwed.
Exactly. So port 0. And then you talked about distractions. And that was one of my biggest things, especially when ransomware came out. So when ransomware started coming out and people were like, oh, just pay the fine or pay the ransom or whatever. And I'm sitting there, I'm going...
Have backups.
The first thing that comes to mind is that's a distraction. Every time. Every time. Don't get me wrong. When it first came out, I'm sure people wanted money. I will almost guarantee it. They wanted money. Not anymore. Once they realized what they can get from it, now it's... We know we're going to lock your systems down. You're going to be looking at this ransomware. All we're going to do is exfiltrate your data. That's all we care about at this point. Whether it's a hospital, government, it doesn't matter. Look how many sheriff's departments and governments and things like that have been completely crushed by ransomware. And it's never been about paying the money, because they'll make more money from the data they exfiltrate than what they're charging you to release those files. And if you release those files, or if you pay that ransom, guess what? It's still sitting there. Have you done anything to remove it? They've got a backdoor somewhere that is still sitting there to this day, unless you have done something and gone through some company to try to get it removed. If you have not tried to remove it or restore or whatever, you're screwed. And I've even seen companies where their cloud backups are compromised. So guess what? You had OneDrive linked to your computer. We've now pwned your OneDrive.
Offsite backups will save you every time.
Yes.
Offsite, not cloud.
Offsite, no. If they're on the same premise, if they're on the same network, you're fucked, because they're going to encrypt all that shit. But if you keep them segmented logically, physically, in all the ways, you're losing maybe 24 to 48 hours worth of data at the most, which fine, whatever. We'll write that off. $50,000 worth of production data. We'll reset some customers' accounts and some shit, whatever. Who cares? But backups, isolated, beautiful, integral backups will save you every time from ransomware. You're like, all right, cool. Don't care. Light prod on fire. We'll just fire up a new one.
Dude, those warm sites, cold sites, and hot sites, you learn about these things. And that's so important.
But do you know what people don't think about in the cloud? And you mentioned the cloud deficit, which is why I want to point this out. Have you ever considered the fact that someone could take a snapshot of every EC2 instance or every CloudFormation stack or every instance or VPC you've ever used? We can take a snapshot of all that shit, export our snapshot, encrypt all your shit, and now not only can we spin up an isolated environment that directly mimics yours and write custom malware for it, we have all your fucking data. And if you want this brand new jazzy environment that we just spun up because we fucked up yours, then you have to pay our fee.
So,
because no one encrypts their fucking snapshots. Encrypt your snapshots. Encrypt your S3 buckets, encrypt your snapshots, encrypt everything.
Protect your neck.
So I've got a question in chat.
I'm just saying.
And then I've got another reason why another reason why I have avoided cloud.
Okay.
The first one is the question in chat. So if I happen to abuse port 0 when doing a bug bounty, would they say it's not serious?
It would be dumb to say that.
Right. That's just a shitty cop out to not pay the bounty.
In our terms, officially, we call that risk rejection. You've identified a risk. So risk is there. Risk is always going to be there. You can't remove risk. And this is what a lot of executives don't understand. Risk is never removed. Your hole is there forevermore. What we can do is pile controls and mitigations on top of it and hope that no one notices and hope that no one gets past all of them to abuse enough holes in together to execute a kill chain. Because when you're doing that, so risk equals likelihood times impact, right? And when you remove enough holes, you're reducing the likelihood factor of that equation. So you're reducing your overall risk because you're removing enough pieces of the kill chain that they can't get something successful off the ground. But if your executive management says we see your risk and we reject it, they're not even accepting it into their risk appetite. They're saying, we just flat out don't believe you, or we just don't care, which means they're not even mitigating it. And that's when you, as a gray hat hacker, could abuse the fuck out of it and then say, hey, I have just proof of concept of the fact that this is a serious problem for you. And if you want to fix it, I will tell you how to fix it. Pay me money though. But I tried to come to you like a grown up and you want to be a child and reject the fact that this existed.
That's a line that you got to worry about, because
there's a line.
Robin, if you've ever read, I know a lot of people don't like the name, but Kevin Mitnick wrote a book, and I forget what it was called, but he talked about the Robin Hood hacker, and I know he's done other things in industry. He actually got
gray hat hacking is very sketchy. There are no laws to protect you. Yeah. It's sketchy.
But the Robin Hood hacker basically went to the New York Times, told them they had a vulnerability, and he said, I can show you how to fix it and what the problem is. And this is after they had already been breached once, and then they came out and said, we're unhackable. You can't hack us. And so he did it. And
do it.
And yeah, he did it. And they refused to let him show them how to fix it. So he said, fine, fuck you. And started using paid for systems and tagging his name.
So did he dox him or did he abuse it?
Oh no, he abused it. He abused the living shit out of it because he got pissed off. Like, you basically sat there, said you're unhackable. I made a proof of concept. I showed you that you're hackable, and you're going to tell me no, and then you're not going to fix your shit. So he abused the shit out of it.
You're saying you want to be hacked.
Yeah, exactly. So he did. And eventually, they found it and then pressed charges against him. He ended up in jail for it, and fines and all this other stuff, because he used the paid system. Had he never used the paid system for free,
dicey as fuck. But
yeah,
if you don't have a get out of jail free card, I strongly urge you not to hack, no matter how tempting it may be.
Exactly.
Children, go forth and gray hat at your own risk.
So we've hit that. The other, I got more questions in chat. Holy crap, we're active tonight. One of my questions, though, or not questions, but one of my statements about cloud was always this, and here's my issue with cloud. We're relying on places like Google, Amazon, Microsoft to secure their infrastructure, to secure their servers, and put all these fail-safes and security measures in place. But if you can own the back end of the box, you now own every company on that box. And that has been one of my issues, is that people talk about virtualization and segmentation. And look, we do all that. You do that. Well, I can't say every company, but companies are being taught to do those things. But even when you do that, there's risk involved. And cloud, though, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and whoever else that comes out is supposed to be more secure, and they have security guards and all this other stuff, you still run that risk that you cannot see what is on their back-end system. So if they are compromised, everything is compromised on there. Every company.
That's true. That's true. But I would argue, oh, sorry, Scott, do you have a point before I ramble? Because I'm going to ramble.
No, please. I'm anxious because I'm the cloud expert on my side of things. So this is great.
That's true to a point. But all we can do as professionals, outside of air gapping a laptop and never letting it touch a network and never letting it touch the internet, is operate in a reasonably secure manner. Your cybersecurity insurance comes into play when you have not operated in a negligent manner, right? So you can say, we proved these controls, we've been audited to them, we say we are operating like to our risk appetite, to what we've defined as acceptable, to a minimum industry level standard according to this framework, like all your GRC shit. And your insurance will say, okay, we acknowledge that you were not operating in a stupid ass manner. And if you were compromised, you did everything you could to not be compromised. Now, where the cloud ties into all this, and I love this soapbox, is that you're kind of talking PaaS versus SaaS. And most people don't understand the shared security model that comes with operating in the cloud. They're like, oh, we put our shit in the cloud. It's all protected by all of Amazon's super robust and Azure's super robust security shit. And it's like, listen, it is to a point. And you can argue, if you were to be breached from the cloud as an initial vector, that you operated in a reasonably secure manner by putting a WAF in front of your fucking cloud assets, by not just using a cloud native security, whatever, by doing something additional, by locking down your gateways, by using intelligent API encryption. Like, there are things you can do in the cloud that behoove you on a security level that your security insurance issuer would say, this was not Google's responsibility or Microsoft's responsibility or AWS's responsibility. This was your responsibility, and you were being negligent in that shit. And if they are to be compromised, I mean, no one's going to stop them. Like, compromising AWS, I mean, I've seen their SOC 2 type 2. It's pretty robust. It's pretty nice. They have an ISO 9000. I don't have an ISO 9000. That would be nice to have. I don't have one. But they are doing all the things they can to secure you from their point of view. And if they are compromised, I mean, a number of us are screwed. That's why you should be in multiple clouds at the same time. If you're solely dependent on AWS, if you're solely depending on Office 365 when they had their outage a few months back, then you're screwed. So don't do that. Be in multiple clouds. It's not scary. It's good for you. And also, if the cloud is compromised, that's not on you. That's on the cloud. They're going to pay for that. You might suffer a little bit, but you can argue in front of Congress, in front of court, in front of your insurance provider, that that was not on you to secure. That was on them to secure. And that's where the resiliency of the cloud comes in. The provider is saying, this is our responsibility, but this is your responsibility. If you're doing your job and we're doing our job, there's no reason anything should go wrong unless someone takes 10 years, writes custom malware, gets a way in. You're not going to stop them anyway. That's a matter of when, not if. So if you understand your shared responsibility model, you understand where your responsibility kicks in if you're a SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS consumer, then you are good knowing what controls are on you to implement in the cloud. It's not the cloud's fault, always. Sometimes it's your fucking fault. That's all I have to say.
That's just it. People don't do their due diligence and all that other basic shit, like stuff that should be remedial to most of us. Nobody really does, or these people that, you know, I've worked with companies that have really immature security models and companies that have, you know, super secure models. You know, to your point, Meryl, people don't understand that fucking shared responsibility matrix. Like, it's basic shit. Like, go out and look at it. It's out there.
It's out
Understand what your shit is and where understand that point of demarcation.
Yeah, and if they're compromised, you have a fail-safe built in. You can tell the people who saved you, we did what we could. This was on them. And they will agree with you. It's objective. It's not a subjective subject. This is them, this is us. That's all there is to it. So if you understand what your responsibility is, then you cannot ignore what is your responsibility.
Exactly.
It's not that scary. It's
exercise your due diligence, use your head. Yes. And, you know, don't do dumb shit. Like, that's what it comes down to, right?
Rotate your fucking keys.
Yes.
Have a password policy. Don't let unlimited tries exist. Don't have no password history. That's dumb.
Wait, that's a bad thing? That's a bad thing? So we're supposed to stop unlimited pass or login attempts? Shit, I've been doing
you could not,
wrong.
but it's brute force on a silver platter. All I need is Mimikatz and Hashcat, and you're fucking done. It doesn't even take a robust stack of servers cracking your shit. It takes me like 3 hours, and I'll sacrifice those 3 hours. Fine.
Yeah, PowerShell Empire, man. That stuff's
and that's
fucking
admin.
That's some of the things that's crazy. So, like, even on my site. So, for anybody who wants to go out there or watches this and decides to be stupid and try to pen test my site, I'll tell you right now. Go ahead, fail. I'm going to lock out your IP. It happens every time. Go ahead, rotate your IP. You're going to fail again, and I'm going to lock out your IP again. And it's going to continue down that cycle, so you're never going to get the chance to run through your damn tools because I know how those tools work.
Which basically means he's willing to sacrifice legitimate traffic from those IPs if there was a DHCP being utilized at the cost of you getting in. So he operates in a very secure manner, people. Bravo.
And that's one of the things I do is, and I told, because I got Rain who was talking about.
You agree, right, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. That's like top-notch security. I wish some of the
places. That's why most people won't do it. They're like, what if we missed out on something real? Who the fuck cares? If it's coming from Russia, you don't need it.
For me,
fuck those customers.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
For me, the way I see it is this: is I am a security-minded YouTube channel, Twitch stream, podcast, everything like that. And if I'm going to preach security, you best be damned, I better be putting up security. We've seen
Yo, shit better be
MSSPs
going.
that preach security and say they offer analyst work or SOC work or whatever, and yet MSSPs get breached, which then breaches all their clients. Come on now.
Yep.
I don't have clients, don't get me
MSSPs
wrong.
are not the gold standard,
Eat your
people.
own dog food, motherfuckers. Come on.
They are not. They are not the gold standard. We had an MSSP that we literally were telling them when incidents were happening, and we knew right then and there we had outgrown them. Now we have an MSSP that when I'm setting off payloads literally left and right, they're like, oh, we caught 13. And I'm like, well, I set off 47, so that's good, but you didn't catch everything. MSSPs do not always save you, people.
There's a point.
Well,
where
and here's the
you
thing
get-
that people don't realize about
Well,
MSSPs, and mind you, this is coming from somebody that works for one. They have clients, many clients. I don't care what they tell you. They have many clients, and if you do not work with them to build your alarms and build your alerts and actually build it to see the traffic you want to be caught, then you get a base model that has nothing to it, and it's going to catch the most basic as shit. You have to work with them. As a company,
Yeah.
that is your responsibility to say, I want to be able to see this alarm. Email me, send me a ticket,
Yeah.
send me whatever the fuck it is. And if you don't
Don't
that,
take them
you're
out
wrong.
of the box and plug them in and assume they're good to go. They take configuration just like everything else.
Yes.
Like, honestly, their time to detect my really good shit was like 3 hours, which is pretty good considering most companies are at like a year or 6 months. That's pretty good. I really love it when I see the
SolarWinds.
emails. People like, we caught People like, we caught Maril doing her job. I'm like, that's good. You should see that shit.
So,
But you didn't touch all these other things I was doing. So we need to fine tune our endpoint, our scripting policies, script control, like all these endpoint things need to be finely tuned so that you literally don't miss anything I do.
That's one of the things too. So many places fuck up is they just sign up with these MSSPs. They don't actually understand their own risk models. Like they
don't understand their own shared responsibility with an MSSP.
Exactly.
We have an MSSP. We're done. Thanks.
Yep. We're good.
walk away. We're
Wow.
good. We don't have to be responsible for anything.
We're so
Like,
done.
it's crazy.
Done. Done.
It's crazy because, again, I worked for an MSSP, and I got a question here in chat that I need to ask because it's been sitting here for a minute. But first, I'm going to make my point. I had a client from one of my old companies, and they had a pen test done. Mind you, the pen tester never got in, right? It was an external pen test. They never got in. You saw a lot of brute force attempts, this, that, and the third. And the client was like, well, we had a pen test done and didn't get any alerts or alarms or this, that, and third. I'm like, all right, tell me, get me that pen tester, get me that report, and tell me what they did. Did they ever get through? And from the information we were given, he never did. He never got through. He did like password spraying, brute forcing, this, that, and everything else. And I told this client, I said, look, I'm going to tell you right now, if I send you an alert, or if my analyst sends you an alert for every brute force attempt, every password spray, your email box would be full. It would never end. I was like,
and then you set these happy little filters so you don't have to see those alerts.
Exactly.
And then you don't see the ones that matter because you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
Which people like me, we rely on that. We rely on the fact that, oh, they're probably seeing this shit left and right, but they're probably not paying attention because they're so annoying.
Lost
in fact,
in the static.
Before I hit you with my real payload, like I custom developed this and I get one chance to bake a cake and I get one hit at you, I'll hit you with like 16 fucking password sprays. So you're like, I'm so over this shit. And you filtered it. And I used the same IOCs and the same vectors in. And then you don't notice because you don't care. Persistence on a silver platter. That's what that is, people.
Yeah, definitely. And
Like,
it's crazy. All right, so we got a question here from, well, I got one from SecCon202 and one from Mark Sampson. Mark Sampson's been here longer. What do you think of the news that the SolarWinds attack was the work of at least 1,000 hackers?
Oh, Jesus.
Do you have opinions, Scott?
So I find it amusing, and I've seen this shit fly around Twitter because I've got nothing better to do. It's like 1,010 times hackers and all this other shit that and if you actually believe they deployed like 1,000 engineers or whatever you want to call them to cook up that attack, I mean that is some serious. That's a little insane. Like, come on now, use your heads.
Here's my problem with things like this. This is the cybersecurity version of telephone. So where we say they spun up 1,000 IPs off of which to bounce their traffic or redirect their traffic, because most of my, like, if I was just to send a malicious payload or host a malicious payload at a URL, my mailgate in 2 seconds would be like, that's a malicious URL. Nope. Heuristics, signatures, whatever. No go. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. But if I just host one redirect, this is okay, but it directs you over here, which is not okay. My mailgate goes, oh, you can have all the things. So glorious. So when we say thousands of IPs were spun up to support this attack, which they were created within like a week. They were brand fucking new. If you had run a whois, if you had gone to ics.sans.org and run these IPs, you would have seen they were spun up for the purpose of this attack. Like, yes, thousands of IPs are spun up. They bounced their traffic off very intelligent proxies. That's all well and fine. Like, we've seen this since Capital One. This is nothing new. It just works because it gets around your AV, it gets around your mailgate, it gets around all these things that you have in place. However, it probably took like 30 hackers, like 30 people. And you have to keep in mind, they're just coming into work every day like, oh, we got a foothold, guys. We got a session. When I get a session, I'm like, it worked. How long do I have it for before they shut me down? Like, you just want to grab all the things. Like, they kept coming into work and they're like, holy shit, we still have it, guys. It's still there. What else can we grab? Oh my God, we got everything we wanted. What else do we want? Emails? Do we want this? Like, they were just coming in every day and being like, oh my God, they have not yet found us and shut us down, because y'all's average mean time to detection is 6 fucking months. We need to fix that as an industry. If they had known that sooner, they would have been shut down way sooner. They would have had like a week to play around maybe and gotten out with not much. But they got away with a ton of proprietary tools and a ton of customer profiles because they had endless months to fuck around in there and see what they could find and see what else they could jump off to and pivot from here to there. And like, that's where the real vulnerabilities are. So for these people, and it was not 1,000, it was 1,000 IPs spun up by maybe a third of that many people monitoring the traffic and just being like, well, they found that one. Let's just spin up another one. Oh, this works. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Like, they were literally just guessing and checking. They were not sophisticated. They just have a ton of resources at their disposal and a ton of time, and they have the ability to spin up thousands of websites that you don't double check before you arbitrarily execute code from that website, and remote file inclusion and all these fucking things that like a course policy would fucking save you from.
So Jake Williams, Malware Jake on Twitter,
Jake! I love you.
Did a SANS
Malware
talk.
Jake, the man.
He is.
I love you, dude.
He did a SANS talk today about supply chain vulnerabilities, and he talked about SolarWinds. And the biggest thing that came out of that for me was the initial vulnerability within SolarWinds. People bitched and moaned, QA and code, tickets, any of these other things. You could have stopped it before it got as bad as it did. And that is
who can name a tool to do that? Who knows what they would have done to do that? Raise your hand.
To monitor what? Like lateral movement and everything else through a freaking network. There's so many other tools to do that.
Who can name it?
You go ahead, Meryl. You look excited.
Can Scott do it?
Scott, can I do it? No?
Infection Monkey. Infection Monkey can tell you these things. So many people don't pay attention to these things. I'm not kidding you. Infection Monkey is not adversarial emulation. This is not harmless little fucking payloads. These are real payloads It's loaded as fuck, and it will tell you from a jumping off point from a basic user account what your second, like your defense in depth actually looks like, what your tertiary vulnerabilities are, and if you are vulnerable from a third party email. I swear to God. Your lateral movement detection tool is Infection Monkey. If you're not using it, you're dumb at this point. I can't help you.
No, I mean, I'm pretty dumb anyway, so you're not telling me anything I don't know, but shit. No, that's pretty cool. I'll have to use that for some of my classes, man.
I've never heard of it.
Oh my God, Scott.
I've never heard of it.
It's so powerful. Why aren't more people doing this? It's out there. It's open source. It's Python based. It's free. Guardicore gives it away. I don't understand, but I know what you're talking about because my dad works for a utility. He works for, he's a SCADA engineer for a utility, and literally the DHS briefs him on the breaches they see because like utilities are attacked all the time.
Oh God, yeah.
And he was like, literally, they went not our vendor, not our vendor's vendor, but our vendor's vendor. They went 3 degrees out of vendors, compromised their security, which is bullshit. Got to fish in, and they compromised the utility and they locked down everyone's electric and water because of supply chain. Supply chain is your wildly running rampant in the meadows fucking unicorn that no one has any control over.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, right? And here's the problem. So I've never heard of Infection Monkey. I've heard of a lot of shit, and I've not heard of that one. So I'm gonna have to do some research on that one now, because I've seen a lot of companies that do what you're talking about with that, but I've never heard of that particular one. So let me tell you, I'm gonna do my research. While at the same time, any EDR, any SIM that is collecting logs properly, anything that's monitoring traffic from one system to the other could catch lateral movement if it's configured right. If you're seeing this stuff, but it has to be configured right, and it has to be collecting the right logs. So if you're not seeing the right logs, how the fuck is it going to see anything?
That's where Infection Monkey will save you. It's not dependent on logs. So let's say you're you just configured something differently. You didn't use the base image, you were being dumb, or you don't have a configuration management policy at all because you're being dumb. You're just spinning up things left and right. You mass deployed workspaces and you didn't fucking beta test it and beta pen test it like an idiot, whatever. Let's just say you did all these things wrong, and there might be a ton of holes that interconnect just enough for someone to be able to get in, and you don't know what they are, but you're kind of afraid that they might be there. Infection Monkey will fucking tell you what they are. Not to mention, you could set it off from like 10 different endpoints at once and see, can it get to my data lake? Can it get to my admin share? Can it get to all these things I don't want to get to from a basic fucking user point? Yes, it can. And it will tell you those things. And it is not based on logging. Most tools are based on logging, which nobody has figured out to this day. Nobody has their logging fucking configured correctly. Nobody's using config. Nobody is using the fucking configuration tools that Azure and GCP and everything else has built in because they think they're dumb.
So
all the tools that I use to tell my IT team what's wrong, they have access to. They just don't turn them on because they think they're stupid.
So Maril, did you do a course on Infection Monkey at all?
I did.
Is it on Pluralsight?
Yes, it is. And if you want a license, you DM me after this. I will give you one.
Genghis on Twitch.
You want a free license?
Just found your course on Infection Monkey and shared it in the Twitch chat. So,
someone found it?
They found your course.
Nice.
So that, because it was asked, everybody, nobody's really heard of Infection Monkey. Somebody talked about how they were like, oh, Maril did a talk on this recently. And so somebody asked, does she have a course on it? And then Genghis went out there and found the course on it. So the course is out there. It's on Pluralsight.
But it's so useful, you guys. Like, it gives you so much information. It is stupid if you are not using it at this point. It ties to MITRE, it ties to Zero Trust, it ties to vulnerability scanners. Like, you can import it into IVM, you can import it into Splunk. You can do so much with this. It's bonkers that you guys haven't heard of this. I'm a little astounded.
I'm astounded I haven't heard of it because I get filled in on a lot of tools, especially where I'm at now. Granted, we developed some of our own stuff, but I get filled in on a lot of tools, and I have through SANS, through Keytron, through LinkedIn, Twitter, through everything. I have never heard of Infection Monkey. So Maril, you are now like one of my new favorite offensive security people for bringing this to my attention so that I can go out there and research it and figure out what the hell it does and how it does it, because that is an amazing capability, especially if it doesn't rely on logs. Because let's be
It's gonna blow
honest,
your mind.
you can
It's gonna blow your mind.
you can delete
It's
logs.
gonna tunnel its way through your system. And it's gonna blow your mind and scare you, and you won't sleep at night. And it's open source, so you can actually tailor it. If you know Python, you can tailor it even further. It's scary shit. It's scary shit, gentlemen.
I love Python. Python's my shit. I'm not as good as like 90% of the people out there, but I can read it. So yes, Pluralsight. If you're looking for Infection Monkey, it is on Pluralsight. That is where Maril's course is, on Infection Monkey.
And Maril will give out free licenses if you DM her on LinkedIn.
Yes, get on LinkedIn, DM Maril. She will hook you up. You'll be able to take the course. So if you're watching this right now, and look, I'm gonna stop this as the people that are watching live. So you have till 1200 tomorrow to send her a DM. After that, you're cut off, which means 1200 as of 27 February 2021. You have to DM her. After that, no more free licenses, no more free courses. So go ahead, shoot her a DM. Other than that, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, this has been an amazing conversation, and it went down some rabbit holes, but I think it's been amazing. And I love that we had so many people here today. I think Maril, you probably brought in the most. Scott, I don't know, because you put it out too, so it could be you, it could be Maril. I doubt it was me. Other than Devil Ray and Rain, Differ Diva is just an awesome person.
Scott has an expertise I don't have. I will tell you guys something very scary. Are you ready for this?
Oh,
Everyone who's present, are you ready for this truth bomb? I don't know networking. I've never taken Net Plus or A Plus. The only exposure I have to networking is what I know from evaluating our own network, and that Sec Plus basically gives you the security aspect of all the networking components that you need to know. I don't have a networking background. I'm not strong in networking, but Scott is.
That's just it. I mean, everybody's got their niche, man. It's, that's why having a cohesive team, and I'm lucky with the team that I've got, not only my direct team, some of whom are here that have been texting me and torturing me, telling me I'm a jagoff, but like our extended team across the whole enterprise where I'm at, we've got some really great people, and I'm fortunate to work with a lot of the folks that I work with, Jim Gretchen, Mike, Matt on my direct team, and the rest of my folks on my extended teams down, in Memphis where we're at. We're fortunate that we've got the depth and breadth to cover these different things, and we work well together. That's the trick too. You've got so many places that are so siloed and nobody talks to each other. Like, come on, we're all on the same boat. Come on, let's work together. Let's figure out what we need to do. If you help me with some AppSec stuff, I'm probably going to buy you a couple beers, or if it's bad enough, I'm going to buy you some good tequila or some good scotch.
Yeah, I got you, homie.
Whatever floats your boat. Exactly. So it's all about working together, and that's what so many places still have yet to learn. And that's what blows my mind. And that's what I tell when I teach part-time in the evening sometimes. I'm like, guys, don't silo yourselves. Don't let that stuff happen. Work across teams. Learn the shit. Don't be an expert. You're not going to be an expert. If you say you're an expert, you're an idiot. You're full of shit. Like, understand enough to be dangerous, but also don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the thing. Know when you don't know. Exactly. And don't be embarrassed. Ego is the biggest problem, man. Ah,
I feel like security people don't want to acknowledge our deficiencies in network, and networking people don't want to acknowledge the deficiencies in security. I'm like, this is fine, you guys.
yes.
There's a reason you can be a full-time networking professional and a full-time security professional. This is my job. Your job is to make it work. My job is to make it secure. And if you did what I do as well as I do, I wouldn't have a job.
Exactly.
I do, because
It's the yin to the yang, man. That's what it's all about. We've got to work together.
So here's my thing, and then we're gonna kill the stream after this, just because it's getting later into the stream. But I'll say this: one of my biggest things is not being siloed, because regardless if you're a system administrator, a network engineer, a blue teamer, a red teamer, you have to work together. Because if you don't know what you don't know, then you can't fix what you don't know. And
exactly.
And
Yes.
having that capability to talk, to interact, that is the same concept. And one of the things that I have to bring onto the channel is some people that work more in the ideology of purple teaming is bringing blue and red teams together, because that's what it is. And before anybody says I need a purple team, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, purple team is not a thing. Exactly. It is the ability and the capability, whether as a consultant in a consulting company or within internal to a company, to bring together the blue and the red and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you see it? No? Okay, let's fix that problem. If you are not doing that as a red teamer within a company, going to your blue team and saying, hey, I just let off this exploit. Are you seeing my traffic? Or did you see that I escalated privileges like from a user to system? No? All right, let's fix that problem. If you're not doing that, there's a problem within your organization, because then you're not communicating. And communication within cyber and within IT is clutch. It is what will get you through and lower your risk footprint from up here to down to here.
Break down the walls.
Oh my God, you're speaking my language right now. I love you so much. Like, it does not take much to be a purple teamer. To be a purple teamer, you used to be a blue team who integrates red into what he's doing, or a red teamer who integrates blue into what she's doing. Like, it literally is not hard. It's not defined. It's not a thing. Like you said, it's not a thing. It's just like when I was a red teamer for Cyber Shield, which is for the National Guard, by the way, I was sending off a ton of IOCs and they were not catching what I was doing. They're like, we're going to open up your book. And I'm like, listen, live, this is what I'm doing. You see me setting off this command? You see the syntax? This is what this means. If you were to check in your endpoint over here, you'd find it and you'd see it and you'd put these pieces together. And this is how you put together a profile based on what I'm doing. That is purple team. Purple team is bringing red into blue or bringing blue into red. If you silo yourself into a blue teamer who doesn't give a fuck about how we break things, or a red teamer who just wants to watch the world burn,
Yes.
neither of you are being effective. Neither of you are helping your org. And at the end of the day, if I can impart you with one thing, your job at the end of the day is to help your org be more secure. Every red teamer came from a blue team. There was no red teamer who just incepted themselves and just started attacking their organization. You came from a blue team, and your job is to help them harden your environment. If you're not doing that, if you're not writing effective recommendations, if you don't speak dev, if you don't speak sysadmin, if you don't speak business risk, if you don't speak business manager, then you are screwing over your organization and they write your paychecks.
So I will say this, Maril. I've given out your Twitter handle on Twitch, because they cannot message you on LinkedIn without being premium, because they're not connected to you. So something on LinkedIn
horrid. I'm sorry.
is
Way to
secure,
go, Maril.
or whatever. So I gave your. It's already in my description, because here's my thing, and what I tell everybody that comes on. Granted, I had to change it recently for some other people, but my thing is all about connecting newcomers, connecting seniors, connecting middle people into being able to communicate, because we all need mentors. We all need to be mentees or be mentors, right? And if without that capability, without being able to interact and communicate, then we'll always see the question, where do I go? How do I figure this out? What do I do? And I'm going to be honest, I'm tired of repetitive questions in terms of where do I go when there are so many people, myself, Scott, Merrill, Ty Wilson, Davin Jackson, Alyssa Miller, Kim Crawley, Shannon Morse. There's so many people out there that will help you out.
The moguls.
And
they are the moguls.
oh my God, it is all over. And the answers are there. You just need to know how to do your research. So I put people out there and I want them to network with others. I want them to connect. I want them to get on LinkedIn and be like, oh, okay, let me connect with Merrill. Let me connect with Scott. Let me connect with, Alyssa, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn. Because I guess what? The people I have on are willing to work with you. Willing.
By the way, Scott, we're going to be friends after this. We went on a podcast together now. Now we're friends.
Exactly.
I'm going to come to you with all my networking shit that I don't know.
Fucking hey, man. I'll come to you with all my red team shit that I don't understand.
I kid you not. Davin Jackson put out on Twitter, as I was airing the episode with Shannon Morris, that him and Shannon are now friends because she said they were friends as we were on the podcast. And it was great.
I wish Alyssa Miller and people like Chloe and Alyssa and Tanya all knew who I was. That would make my century. If they were like, Meryl, you're invited now. I was like,
don't worry. Look, hey Meryl, I'll hook you up. I'll tag Alyssa and you in the same post and be like, look, Alyssa, Meryl wants to know, wants you to know who she is because she looks up to you. I got you covered. It'll happen.
Alyssa with Fancy Fridays, man. They actually, that whole crew that's on there with Alyssa and some of the other folks, so many great people. They actually helped me get through some other stuff, just personal wise, just an outlet to get out there and hang out and have some cocktails and have a good time on Zoom. Just such great people. Alyssa's one of the best, man. She is absolutely one of my favorites.
She gives back so much. She gives back so much.
She is an absolutely amazing person.
She is. And so here's one of the things I'm going to say. I'm at 900. Well, I don't know what I'm at now, but when I started this stream, I was at 955 subscribers on YouTube. When I hit 1,000, I will give away a book. I don't know what book yet. The
Red Team Operator's Guide.
Look, I have the Red Team Field Manual. I think that book is awesome. It hasn't been updated in years, but RTFM is amazing. BTFM
I just acquired PTFM.
The way I see it is this. So one of the suggestions and the one that took the priority was let people choose. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dollar limit on it and have them put it on their Amazon wish list and then do it through that way. That's probably going to be what I do, but I don't know yet. But here's the thing.
Someone asked for web app pen testing with Burp Suite. Someone asked for that because it's fucking worth it. That entire book. It's pure value.
I have the web application hackers handbook.
They can pay for it. It's so worth it.
So before I go and before we cut off the stream for the night, because I got plans tomorrow and I got to cut this stream off, I will say this. Look, in order for me to keep giving back, in order for me to keep doing these streams and keep doing what I want to do for the community, your support is asked for. Whether it's sharing the videos, sharing the channel, going on Buy Me a Coffee, going on Patreon, whatever you can do. Let's get the word out there, because one thing you need to know about CyberWarriorStudios, and if you haven't been to the website at cyberwarriorstudios.com, you may not know. My goal is to build an all-inclusive community. I don't care where you come from. I don't care how new you are. I don't care how long you've been in the field. Check your ego at the door, because this is for everybody to learn, to grow, and keep moving. Because we cannot do that as white hats or gray hats even. We're behind the 8 ball. The attackers are always going to be ahead of us. So the only way to even remain slightly close to them is to learn from each other. So Cyber Warrior Studios is going to continue to put out videos. I've got Devil Ray Pen Testing who just put out a playlist. I am looking for contributors. If you're actively wanting to give back to the community, whether it's Blue Team setting up SIMs or Security Onion or whatever the case may be, doing log analysts, reverse engineering malware, I really don't care what it is. If it's basic IT, you want to teach people about computers and networking and network engineering, bring it to me. I will host your shit all day. And if you want to have a Patreon and you want to have a buy me a coffee, I'm not taking your money. I don't want your money. All I want is for you to give back to the community. So if you're wondering where to start here. All right.
Start here.
I love you all. I love everybody here. Let me tell you, this has probably been one of the most active chats I've had in a long time, and I am truly grateful for it. So, take care. Have a fantastic weekend. And, as always, I will catch you next time.
Ah.
I just want you to know, I'm not afraid to come to you and tell you I'm a networking idiot, but if you come to me and tell me